Since I don't know where to start, I'm just going to start talking before I lose the nerve to do this. It's been on my mind and my heart for a while. Uh, so I just felt that I need to get stuff out of me that's just been suppressed and buried for so long. Not necessarily that I didn't deal with it. I don't know if I did or if I just kind of forgot about it in a way. I feel like I forget things easy unless like it's brought up and I'm forced to deal with it. So talking about the issues of pain and shame of my past. And I know it can be a big topic, so I kind of just want to keep it surface and brief, but still hitting the main things and, kind of some of the stuff that I went through and did in my youth and teen years. It accounts for the way that I parent or mother. It accounts for why I am so protective over my kids and just the decisions I make, the trust issues that I have, just everything. It, I guess, all goes back to kind of my past. So anyhow, the first thing in my memory is of being molested as a younger girl by older cousins. And I don't even remember when or how that started. Some things I do remember was like obviously not knowing at the time what to do. I obviously didn't tell anybody, not sure why. Maybe I just wasn't raised to know, okay, you should say something or whatever. Maybe it just wasn't a big deal to me, or maybe I just had too much shame and embarrassment to talk about it. Even starting out with like playing games with the cousins, and going into closets and certain games, like whether it be doctor or whether it be sardines, cramming in a closet or whatever it was, starting out in a closet with older cousins who were probably going through puberty or maybe older, I don't remember, but not a good idea. Being touched wrong and being made to touch and not understanding at the time, not knowing, oh, is this just something interesting to explore, or, no, this is wrong. And then it turning into like a span of years happening. Sleepovers, again, not a good environment, especially, with older cousins, and so, or older anybody for that, I guess. So, just making the cycle and awakening something in me that shouldn't have been awakened yet, just arousing this sense of sexuality that I don't believe that kids should be exposed to that early. And so I guess just going through that kind of influenced my teenage years then, getting into relationships, inappropriate relationships, I guess, not just, well, first of all, I guess I don't think that kids should be having, boyfriend, girlfriends at that age. I mean, what's the point? I mean, that's, your kids. So, but I can remember having, a boyfriend in like 5th grade and kissing as early as probably 6th grade. I don't know. Like my memory is a little shady on some of the details, but, definitely by like 6th or 7th grade, making out in classrooms after school or something. Like, if I picture my kids now at that age doing anything like that, I mean, I'm just appalled at the idea. Like, I can't imagine how I was even in that position doing these things at that early age. And so that just kind of goes to like some of my mothering decisions, like we don't do sleepovers. We don't do things where you're going to be alone. We keep doors open. Like if the kids are playing in a room, doors open. Like there's no reason to, I don't know, just to put yourself in that kind of situation. And even if it's just like curiosity, taking away, like it just opens doors that I don't think should be opened. Um, so I never talked to anyone about that. I never told anyone. I guess, I don't know, like I said, if I just was too embarrassed or felt guilt or shame or what the reason was, but it was just kind of something that got suppressed. And, now just going through this healing process with my body and, the emotional side comes with that. And so all this stuff is coming up again that I just feel like, a lot of people might think like, why are you telling people this? Why are you talking about this? But, that's personal. Nobody wants to know that or whatever. I just feel, for me, like even if nobody watches this, I just feel like I'm getting it off my chest. And no, I don't want to just go talk to a therapist because, I feel like if this can, teach someone something that wouldn't see it this way, if it can help somebody, I don't know. So I'm just doing it. That's just what I feel like I'm supposed to do. So here it is. And so that brings me to the next thing, chronologically, being in a serious relationship by the time I was like 14, 15. So serious that I'm thinking, okay, this is the guy I'm gonna marry. I was dating a pastor's son at the time, and we were left alone, which was inappropriate. Being allowed to be alone in a room with the door closed or go places alone, unchaperoned, not a good idea. At that age, you have all the hormones and everything and curiosity and wanting to explore and experience things, and not being taught not to do. I mean, maybe I was, but I guess not enough if I was. Just not to put yourself in situations where things are going to get out of hand. And so, messing around, doing an inappropriate thing sexually. And then, I always had it in my heart. I guess I knew enough to know that I wanted to wait until marriage to have sex. But then when you put yourself in a situation to where, you're kissing and touching and doing these things, your body just kind of takes over. And so in my mind, I knew that I wanted to wait, but the fact that I let myself be in that situation, that decision wasn't mine. I'm not the one that decided, to wait or not to wait. It was just taken because things just started rolling and they kept going. And so after that, I kind of look at it, like rape, but at the same time, I put myself in that situation to start messing around or whatever you want to call it. And so at the same time, I don't feel like it was rape, even though that part wasn't consensual. I didn't want to go all the way. And he just decided that he wanted to. So I felt a lot of things. I felt shocked. I felt betrayed. Like I didn't have the trust there anymore. I felt devastated because I wanted to wait, as a 15-year-old girl, that, I considered myself a believer, and I had these certain things. At the same time, I wasn't living pure completely because I was still kissing and messing around. And so it kind of naturally went to that, even though, like I said, it wasn't my decision. It happened. And after that, it was kind of like, what's the point now? What's the point of even trying for purity now? Because it's already gone, this was already taken from me or given, however you want to look at it. And so that was, looking back, a pretty traumatic experience for me. Of course, in my mind, I thought, okay, well, now I'm for sure going to marry this guy. I was in love. I thought I was in love, my first love at 15 years old, but turns out that relationship didn't work out. Like he had some serious issues, being like addicted to drugs and, habitual liar and everything, that I couldn't make that relationship work as much as I wanted to. And so from there, my future already being ruined in my thoughts, I thought, what's the point if I, live this kind of lifestyle, just doing what feels good or doing what I want, not trying to stay pure. And so that's kind of how my interactions went from there. And I ended up dating in high school. I ended up dating the boyfriend I had in 5th grade. We reconnected, and so we got engaged when I was in high school. Gosh, so young, like I can't even imagine that now, but I felt like I was pretty mature and responsible and grown up in high school already. I worked full time. I was in the work program in high school to where I'd leave half a day and go to work, full-time job. And so I was planning my wedding in high school. And then as soon as I graduated, the month after, I was getting married at 18 years old. And people would say, you're too young for that, just wait and everything. But I was just ready, I think, maybe ready to get out of the house. Whatever it was, all the different circumstances pushing me just to get married, like the image or the appearance of not living with someone before I was married. And so we just decided to get married. And so I got married at 18, and then, our relationship maybe started off good, but there were issues. Like I didn't have a strong foundation spiritually. All this maturity I thought I had, I was still a very selfish person. I think living on my own would have done me quite a bit of good before getting married, because, I didn't know all the cooking and cleaning stuff and to run a household and to be a wife. Like I wasn't taught all that stuff, or at least I didn't learn it. And that wasn't good for our marriage, our schedules, our work schedules and whatever, that wasn't good. I felt very alone in my marriage because my husband was addicted to pornography, and I felt like I was in competition with that, or else like there was no competition, like we just didn't have that intimate relationship. And so, we had different schedules, even going to bed at different times, getting up at different times. And so, no excuses for what I did, but, I started having this emotional connection with a guy at work that I saw every day, and very charming and attentive, and listen to my problems, which another thing I know now, you don't talk to someone of the opposite sex about marriage problems, about anything really. You don't become like good friends or close friends, confide in someone of the opposite sex, especially when you're going through something like that, because it all leads to something. I didn't know at the time what it was going to lead to, but eventually it led to having an affair with this person. And I knew that was wrong. I knew, obviously that was not Christian at all. I don't even know what I was thinking at the time that I did this. I knew that I felt alone in my marriage, and that, I wasn't getting my needs met. And like I said, being a selfish person, I was looking at what I wanted. And so, and it all starts in your mind. And you think about, if you hear that background noise, it's raining now. It all starts in your mind. It starts as a thought, and you start planning these things, and it eventually turns into action. You dwell on something long enough, and you find a way to make it happen. And so that was a really bad part of my life. Like I said, who cares what the reason was that pushed me to that? I still feel responsible for that. There's so many better ways that I should have gone about this instead of, talking to this guy and starting this relationship. But, it's what I did. And then I thought I was in love with this guy, he was also married, and we had this plan. We were going to just, leave our spouses and be together. I mean, crazy, right? But I guess people do it. I don't know. And so when I finally had told my husband this stuff, obviously that's kind of a deal breaker with being married. I mean, who cares what his issues were, right? That he was being unfaithful, with a computer or whatever. People don't look at that the same way. People don't see that as much of a sin or a bad thing, but that's just as destroying as a marriage. But like I said, all in all, I still feel like I take the responsibility and the blame for my first marriage failing. And so we separated, and I moved out and had a roommate, and then, had a very unhealthy lifestyle with men then, because it's like, at that point, after this track record and past, like, what's the point of anything? Just trying to find some kind of fulfillment or happiness in men, and not good things from there. I ended up moving to have, a few different places. Then I had my own apartment in the city where I was going to college. And then just the stress of the situation and work, advancing in my career. At the same time, I decided to drop out of college because, the chances of seeing my separated spouse there and everything. So continued living this life of promiscuity, so unhealthy, unfulfilling, dangerous. Looking back at it, it's only by the grace of God that something didn't happen to me, or that I didn't get some kind of disease or get pregnant, being in these different situations. I mean, I almost just get overwhelmed with looking back, on how I made it through that. And then I feel like I was starting to turn my life around, and be done with that. And my ex and I were thinking about reconciling. And so we got back together for a little bit and went to counseling from some pastor. I don't even know his name. And turns out just what I had done in that separated time or off time, I don't know, we might have been divorced already. That was just too much for him to deal with, obviously. Like, I can't blame him for that. People that I had been with and everything, people don't think anything when it's a guy, I guess, but when it's a girl doing it, I guess it's different. So he couldn't get over that. And I was devastated all over again, because I thought we actually had a chance of reconciling and getting back together. But that doesn't even end there. Like, I was rejected because he already had someone else. And that just, it crushed me, having that hope and then having that crushed. And then, the thing about it was that he was so sweet about it, saying that one day that I would find someone. Like, he was very caring about it, even though he couldn't, like, get over or forgive what I had done. Like, of course, this whole thing, I just blame myself for all of that. Like, I couldn't blame him for that. And so this unknown pastor that I didn't know even who he was, that we had seen for counseling for a little bit, I don't remember the circumstances, but somehow he came over to my apartment to console me or something about us, not reconciling. And then, believe it or not, he took advantage of me. And it's like, where was I in my mind that I didn't recognize this and kick this guy out? I don't know if I was just so broken and didn't care and just wanted someone there, but he just took advantage of me. And oh my gosh, the shame I felt and the guilt, because this pastor was a married man with kids, and to come into my apartment and take advantage of me and do these things, like I don't even know what was going through my mind, honestly, at the time, but it happened. And oh my gosh, like that was just, such a low point. With the rejection of not reconciling and, having this happen, I just felt like I was at rock bottom. Like, I just hit the lowest point. I never missed work. I was always a workaholic, like my dad. And to call into work and not even go into work the next day, because I just felt like life was over. Like, I was trying and it didn't work out. Like, you know, what's the point of living after this? And so I think at rock bottom is when you can really surrender to God, you know, when you don't have anything left of yourself to do it in your own strength. So that point, you know, maybe not the circumstances, but that point was good for me because I sincerely cried out to God and swore off men, swore off relationships or dating or any kind of, you know, anything. And I think that set me on the right track, you know, to where I was just single and focused on God, focused on my personal relationship with Him. And then down the road from there, I don't know how many months later, but that's when I met my Joshua. So God knew exactly who I needed. And so He brought Josh into my life. And when I met him, it was like the Holy Spirit, I knew. It was like He pulled us together. We met at Cowboys Dance Hall in San Antonio, and I was out with some friends, you know, not going, you know, for myself to be with a guy or see a guy, you know, I was still in my single mindset, but you know, this guy comes walking across the dance floor, I'm sitting alone, and asks me, you know, excuse me, miss, would you like to dance? And I said yes. And that night, just dancing with him, it was like we were the only ones in the whole place. And I think God used him to rescue me from this life I had been living. And so the next night we talked all night on the phone, and somehow, I maybe must have been God, I just knew that this was my future, that He was the one I was to marry and be with and have a family with. You know, my previous husband had told me, I guess probably after we broken up, that he could never see himself having a family with me or having kids with me, which, you know, was like right in the heart. But to have this hope again, it was just the most wonderful thing. And just to speak about redemption, like, even though all that I did, a lot of stuff maybe that I didn't even mention or go into detail about, but just, you know, the idea of it, all the shame that I was carrying and rejection, failure, you know, when you surrender to God, then He can work, then He can do something in your life. And so that's my story. It's not one of just shame and failure and, you know, bad living and being a bad person. I'm on the other side of that now. And God is faithful. Like he didn't let me go. He held on to me. He was there when I turned to Him. He didn't say, oh, it's too late for you. You know, you've already done all these things. You know, I don't want you. That's not what God is like. You know, He washed me clean. He cleansed me. He made me new. And so now I can live for Him without all this, you know, hanging over me. And that's just the most wonderful thing. He is our Redeemer and our Savior. And so I'm just so incredibly thankful to be where I'm at today. You know, Josh and I, we've been married for 15 years so far, and we have 5 children, and the Lord has just really blessed us. You know, of course, there's things in every marriage that you go through and learn through, but you know, like I was ready this time, and we have God in our marriage, and oh, just the relief of even saying all this stuff out loud and getting it off my chest. Another thing is people who might meet me, you know, a lot of stuff, you meet someone, you talk to someone, even if you see them kind of regularly, it's a lot of small talk, you know, it's just surface. And so my goal is just to be able to be real with people and authentic, not saying that you have to tell everybody your past. This is just something I felt like I needed to do. So people don't look at me or see me online or something and think, oh, like this is a perfect person. Like obviously there's no perfect people, but for people to even have some kind of idea, they think they know you. But I want to be real with people and let them know, yes, I did go through stuff. Yes, I did things, but there's forgiveness and there's second chances and 100th chances, and now I have all this wisdom and for the way we live. Like my husband and I, a lot of people have these rules, but we definitely go by these rules. Like we are not alone with the opposite sex. We don't go places or do things alone with the opposite sex because even though it might be innocent, things always start somewhere. Like I know that personally. I know how you can get emotionally involved, and so we just don't open those doors. We don't let ourselves even be put in those situations. Like for teenagers or couples dating, like the start of it is you just don't put yourself in those situations where it can lead to more. You might think it's just kissing and touching, but once your body gets going, it doesn't want to stop. You have to decide ahead of time what's important to you, what the values are, what you're going to stick to, and then you have to put these boundaries in place not to go past that. Like don't be alone with each other, unchaperoned, or be in a car or be anywhere to where this can potentially happen. So anyhow, I'm probably forgetting a lot of stuff that I was thinking about talking about, but I feel for right now just getting this all out, I feel so much better, and I think it's going to be good for my healing of this physical thing I'm going through right now with stress and with other things with my hormones going on. Like I feel like this is just a good starting point for me. So that's it. I'm going to leave it at that.